Τα ομηρικά έπη αποτελούν η ιδανική πηγή έμπνευσης για τον κινηματογράφο. Αυτή τη φορά η Οδύσσεια και πιο συγκεκριμένα η άφιξη του Οδυσσέα στην Ιθάκη αποτέλεσε την αφετηρία και τη βάση για να γυρίσει ο Ιταλός σκηνοθέτης Ουμπέρτο Παζολίνι την Επιστροφή. Είναι μια ευρωπαϊκή παραγωγή μακριά από τη συνταγή των αμερικανικών blockbuster που ενδιαφέρεται περισσότερο για τις σχέσεις των χαρακτήρων και όχι για τις μάχες και τα ειδικά εφέ. Η ταινία παρακολουθεί πιστά την πλοκή του έπους. Εστιάζει όχι τόσο στο πραγματικό ταξίδι του Οδυσσέα, όσο στην ψυχική και συναισθηματική διαδρομή του χαρακτήρα, ο οποίος επιστρέφει μετά από 20 χρόνια στον τόπο του, στη γυναίκα και το παιδί του, εξαντλημένος και σημαδεμένος από τον Τροϊκό πόλεμο και τις περιπέτειες που είχε στη συνέχεια. Εκεί είναι αναγκασμένος να αντιμετωπίσει το παρελθόν του και να διεκδικήσει εξ αρχής το βασίλειό του, τη γυναίκα και όλα αυτά που άφησε πίσω του. Η ταινία έκανε την παγκόσμια πρεμιέρα της στο φεστιβάλ του Τορόντο και έχει ως βασικό της ατού τους δύο πρωταγωνιστές της, τον Ρέιφ Φάινς και τη Ζιλιέτ Μπινός, που ερμηνεύουν τον Οδυσσέα και την Πηνελόπη αντίστοιχα. Η ελληνική της πρεμιέρα έγινε στη Θεσσαλονίκη, όπου είχαμε την ευκαιρία να μιλήσουμε με τον σκηνοθέτη της, Ουμπέρτο Παζολίνι.
I'm Italian. As most Mediterraneans, we are brought up on Homer from when we are born. The Greeks might think that Homer is theirs, but it really is all of us Europeans. So you grow up with the passion of Homer. You grow up with, when you're young, with the stories of Cyclops and of sirens, and then you grow up. And then you grow up a little more, and then you realize that the most interesting, most unique insight of Homer's is in the story of a family coming together. The difficulty of a family coming together, the difficulty of a family coming together after a war, after what a war has done to the people who went to fight it, and after what a war has done to the people who have stayed at home behind waiting for the return of their loved ones. I've been actually working on hoping to make a film about, inspired by the Odyssey, for the last 30 years. So it's actually taken me much longer than it has taken Odysseus to go to Troy, win the war in Troy, fight for 10 years, win the war in Troy, travel back, sleep with the most beautiful women around the Mediterranean, finally get home. He took less time than I did making the film. Why this part? Because, as I say, as grown-ups, we focus, we are more interested, I think, in the oral tradition that brings us the story of a returning soldier. It's more humane, it's more relatable than the other oral tradition that obviously Homer used to bring into the stories a story of travels and magical places and extraordinary adventures. What is more personal, what is more familiar to us, what hits us more closely is a man, a father, a woman, a wife, a child, and they're coming together again. And I think that's what speaks most to us across the ages, across the last 2,800, 900 years, that this poem has been in existence in a written form, because of course we know that it's a much older story that was simply recounted orally. There is no destiny that is running or ruling the lives of these people. They are humans who make decisions. And in particular, in the case of Odysseus, it is the fight, the battle to make himself able to go home again and to confront what he has done and what is waiting for him at home. The Penelope's obvious journey is the one of somebody who's waiting and who has to make decisions. She's a very powerful woman. She makes the decision on whether to wait or not to wait. She makes the decision of whether to marry or not to marry. She makes the decision of whether to accept her husband or this man who says he is her husband or not. She is the one who makes the decision. And he is the one who has to convince her to take him back. We can imagine what 20 years of separation do to any couple. But here we are talking about a couple who has been separated by violence, by war, by uncertainty. They're not, Odysseus does not know whether Penelope has been waiting for him. Penelope does not know whether Odysseus is going to come back. And what is going to come back when Odysseus comes back? What kind of man? She doesn't know. And Homer shows us, in a moment really, that difficulty of coming together.
28 χρόνια μετά τον Άγγλο ασθενή και πολύ περισσότερα από τα ανεμοδαρμένα ύψη, ο Ρέιφ Φάινς και η Ζιλιέτ Μπινός, δύο κορυφαίοι ηθοποιοί της γεραιάς Υπήρου, συναντιούνται και πάλι στη μεγάλη οθόνη με αφορμή την επιστροφή. Βρέθηκαν στο 65ο Φεστιβάλ Κινηματογράφου Θεσσαλονίκης στις αρχές Νοεμβρίου, όπου τιμήθηκαν με τον Χρυσό Αλέξανδρο της διοργάνωσης και μίλησαν για την ταινία στην οποία πρωταγωνιστούν και για τους ρόλους τους.
It's an interior journey, very much. It's a man who's come home but not sure that he can be home. You know, quite a complex challenge of a man with some kind of, he's sort of carved out, he's spiritually eviscerated by what he's been through. So in the course of the film, his journey is towards Penelope. And there's a wonderful scene which we both have always loved in the middle of the film when we meet, but we don't identify ourselves to each other. I think Penelope recognizes him, he knows who she is, but they can't. They're in some terrible, tragic inability to connect because they've both suffered with this distance of time. So the psychology that Ουμπέρτο defined in this script was very meaningful to me and a wonderful challenge.
She's a very modern woman, you know, it's, even though it's an archetype, you know, but she is not the waiting, submitted wife. She has her own, you know, journey in a sort of desperation, I believe, and facing what it means to have faith and the difficulty to have faith. The patience that women have to have for the, you know, that Penelope has for him to come back is huge, because inside of us everything's huge. And it feels to me, if we can do a sort of a parallel with what's happening in the world now, it's like the feminine side of ourselves has to wish that this need of conquer will change, will transform. So I can take the story of Odysseus as an inside story, the female and the male side of ourselves that needs to reunite, and a part of ourselves that go away from the heart of us to come back home, to come back to the heart. It takes a while to unite finally the feminine and masculine together. So you can read the story in so many levels, and I think that's why this film is very modern. Even though it's a classic, it's even more modern today than it was then at the time, I suppose.
And find a wall but not find their way home.
Η επιστροφή του Ουμπέρτο Παζολίνι παίζεται στους ελληνικούς κινηματογράφους από την Πέμπτη 28 Νοεμβρίου.
Give the man the boat.